Hey, Dr. Erin here, teaching universal law and spiritual truth, bringing fun to the shift in La La Land. And I'm thrilled to have our guest today. She is a celebrity fitness expert. She has her MBA, and she's a huge influencer on YouTube. She has great videos. And the reason why I just am so excited for this conversation is because I really want to bridge spirituality and the fitness world together. I believe we truly are saying the same thing. And so thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So the intention and why I really wanted to bring you on here is because I know you have a great story. You have a really incredible story around basically going towards becoming an Olympian and having that entire dream kind of shift and going in a new direction. And I'd love to hear that. I want you to tell the audience about that. And I also want to know how you got successful, because I know people want to know. I want to know.
So for me, in a small town, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. And what were the things that were popular for kids? They were dancing, there was basketball. So I went out, my parents couldn't afford to put me in dance lessons because that was an expensive sport. And I got cut from the basketball team because I was too small. And I remember my dad saying, well, you were meant to run then, because running is free. And it doesn't take any coordination. It doesn't take size. And so I think my dad's philosophy was he was always positive. And and to this day, it doesn't matter what you go to him with or what, there's always like this positive. And so I think that really resonated in my head, okay, so, well, there's a reason you can't do that, or there's a reason there's a roadblock for that. So now, instead of looking at the roadblock, look at what else is open. It's forcing you to do something else. So for me, that was running. And I learned the great thing about running is that a time is a time on a track anywhere in the world. So if you are a dancer, if you are a violinist, or all of these things are beautiful, but they're subjective, right? You have to be seen in order to be evaluated. Running, you don't have to be seen. A time is on a track anywhere. So once I found out about these things called athletic scholarships, I became, as anyone who knows me will know, I'm laser focused, almost obsessively focused. When I have my mind on a goal, it's like nothing else comes in the way, to almost obsessiveness. So my obsessiveness then became, okay, so what time do I have to run to get a full athletic scholarship? Division I, full athletic scholarship. Oh, and there also you have to have the grades as well. So I became the running girl. Literally in my hometown, they still write articles about the running girl because I started running, there was no organized programming. It's not like the US where there's it's a big deal, sports. There was nothing organized. I started running before school, on my lunch hours, after school, in the middle of blizzards. I mean, I'm from 4 hours north of Toronto. It was a blizzard half the year. So I became the running girl. And I did run those times, and I was offered scholarships all over the U.S. My mom actually still has a scrapbook of all the different schools that were recruiting me, and so I was on a Division I scholarship, and I went down to Virginia, and I quickly started. It was a whole different world, a caliber of training, and I thought, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Because this is insane. I am not used to this. My body was breaking down. I was so tired. And I think there is when I learned that I did not come all this way to go home and to give up. But how do you get through it when it gets that tough? And it occurred to me in a hotel room one night in the middle of Indiana, and I had to race the next day, and I was under a lot of pressure, and I was scared. And I said to our captain, who had been through it for 4 years, and I said, how do you do this? The amount of pressure, and we're missing school, we're on a bus like 5 days a week. And she said, you have to either decide, you either have to pack up and go home, because you'll never get through it like this, or you have to shut that part of your brain that questions it. You have to shut it off. You have to become machine-like. If you're going to do it, you have to stop wavering. So when you get up in the morning, we've trained at 6 a.m., which in college is terrible. We train twice a day. And she's like, so when that alarm goes off at 5:30, it's not, oh, I'm going to get up. It's boom, just go.
Nice.
Just shut it off. And that and everything else in my life became boom, just shut it off and go. And long story short, I ended up making automatic qualifying for Olympic trials while I was still in college. And 3 weeks before the Beijing Olympics, I broke my femur at the neck, which is where your leg meets your hips. And I was on bed rest. I was told I'd never run again or walk properly. And that for me was the worst thing and the best thing. At the time, I think you have to go through anything. You go through the motions of, it was an identity crisis. Mm-hmm. No one anybody that says that just get back up, I think it just feels inauthentic. Mm-hmm. It was I went through, within a matter of a week, I lost not only the ability to run, but I lost my career, my US visa, my sponsors, my team, my coach, the support of everyone I thought was my friends, because you go from being like the lead on stage almost, mm-hmm. where everybody just caters to you and you are this racehorse, to being nobody, mm-hmm. a failure. And I thought, oh my God, to have to go back to my hometown in Canada with a tail between my legs, not having achieved what I wanted, sounds worse.
Wow. I think a lot of people can relate to having something they thought they were setting out for, and yes. then they switch and whatever. And so I love your story because of that. And I want to, and we actually have to take a break right yeah. now. But when we come back, what I want to know is how you made that transition. And I want to know how you're taking fitness, because you really are an influencer, helping people take spirituality in a sense of fitness. This is a daily spiritual practice for people. They are adamant about their workout, and how you're helping people take that into their lives and make a difference today, okay? So when we come back, we're going to be talking about that, how you can take fitness into your life and make that power decision so that you can get what you want out of your life. We'll be right back.
Lights, camera, action!
Hey, Dr. Erin here. We're back with Amanda Russell, hearing her incredible story about overcoming wanting to be an Olympian and having to shift after some trauma, after an accident, right? So my question is, for people out there that are having to shift their minds, something's happened, something's happened in their life. They didn't, maybe they haven't met the particular person that they want to meet, or maybe they haven't had the career they want. How do you overcome the mindset that it takes that is going to have you be that person that wakes up in the morning and says, I'm no longer going to listen to that negative voice in my head. I'm going to have that decision. I'm going to move forward. How did you take that? How did you take that quantum leap?
I think that's a great question. I think that what happens when we go through, or we don't get what we want, is we focus on what we wanted that we didn't get, versus focusing on the door that's shut, versus when that door shuts, you have to look at all the other options. That maybe there's a reason, and I think there's power in believing that there is a reason, as you know more than anyone, that there's a bigger universe out there. And it doesn't have to mean you have to believe in certain things, but I really believe that when one door shuts, there's others that open. When I went through my injury, it was like a death of a part of myself, because my entire identity was that. And I think what I realized, and I think what so many people that go through like a turning point will think, is that their biggest failure actually strips you of all of your ego and allows you to be back on this playing ground where you can go after something that you wouldn't necessarily have gone after before, because you had this ego about you. It almost allows you to then clean slate and be like, okay, what? For me, now, running was all about me. It was all about my times, winning, breaking records. but it didn't touch anyone else. And now my career completely shifted. What I learned from that was that this is about so much more than exercise. You know what it's like to be at the top of your game. And that level of confidence is untouchable. And when that's stripped of you, you become a totally different person.
Great point. You know, we do teach that. We teach, as far as the universe goes, that what we focus on expands and what we don't. So I agree that if something happens and we don't get what we want, you know, we always get what we need, which is awakening to a greater version of ourselves. So I love that you've shifted that. And I know you influenced tons of people through YouTube, through being a professor at UCLA, through all kinds of things. And now I'm dying to know about your hashtag. I've looked and seen you have a hashtag that's 24-hour fitness, and you have a hashtag that's also 29029, is that?
29029.
Yeah, so tell us about that, because I know this is a very spiritual adventure, right?
Yeah, this is very cool. It's a personification of a lot of things. So I built my entire career off of collaboration. I really believe in that. I used to call it collaboration, which is really just this fancy word for now influencer marketing, which has become the curriculum that I've developed. And I believe that no one is self-made. And you, the more that you can partner with people or brands, organizations, your success becomes so much more exponential, and the power of what you can touch is just incredible. So one of these people, so a lot of this came from my time in New York. I used to, when I was trying to get back into fitness, I couldn't run, so I developed a lot of non-impact sports. Cycling, swimming were two of the big ones. And so I used to ride my bike in the park in the morning, 5 o'clock a.m., 5:30, and there was a small group of, actually it was a men's team that used to train, and these guys were all really established in their own field, but mostly all former athletes as well. And there's a very strong correlation to, I hate to say it, to athletes and in business. One of them was the vice chairman of JP Morgan, and he actually verbally said many times that he's like, I get accused all the time of always hiring former college athletes, but there's a correlation here. And so I got to know these guys, and one of them, Jesse Itzler, incredible. He's known as the 100-Mile Man. He wrote the book, Living with a Navy SEAL. He hired a Navy SEAL to live with him, like slept at his kitchen table sitting up while he's an entrepreneur, like serial entrepreneur. Some of the accolades, I mean, some of the companies to his name are, you know, incredible. His wife actually is an entrepreneur as well. And he's a big believer also in this idea of collaboration and the discipline and the commitment of what you go through physically, and how that develops ideas and how it develops bonds and collaborations with other people. So his idea was, let me create something myself. And so he wanted to make something that was as physically hard as an Ironman, but mentally tougher. And that would also bring people together. It's like when people go to war, they bond. So this is something that it's almost impossible to actually train for all of us that were invited to this. So we're all going to have to sort of go through it together and see the ideas that come from it.
I love it. So basically, it's because what we teach is that spiritually we're meant to work together. We're meant to synergize. And what you're saying is that being an influencer, and you teach influencing, that's what you teach at UCLA. That's what your book is coming out about. It's all about influencers, and we know this is huge out there. Everyone wants to be an influencer.
It's a hot topic.
It's a hot topic.
Misunderstood,
yes. And I completely agree that we have to collaborate, that it's, you know, that's why we have interviews. That's why we synergize. That's why it's a network here.
This is influencer marketing right here.
Completely, 100%. And so tell us about the actual event that you're guys are
So the actual event is, so he rented the mountain of Stratton in Vermont. And it is one of the steepest mountains in North America in the shortest period of time. So it's super athletically challenging in that it's not a long Everest type. It's like you gotta like suck wind and get up it. But we simulated Everest in that Everest is 29,029 feet. So we have to go up at 17 times.
Okay, got it.
And so we camp overnight and whatnot. And you have to go up at 17 times as fast as you can. And then part of it, there'll be venture capitalists there. They have a lot of, it's mostly luxury brands that are all sponsoring it. And they want to get involved in the ideas or whatever the people that were invited are working on. Whatever we're working on something or we have an idea about something, how can we support that? How can we make whatever you're doing bigger? How can we change the world? And like Steve Jobs said, it's people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do.
Completely.
And if there's any definition of that, and the people that he invited, I mean, this roster. So I work with 24 Hour Fitness. They're a partner of mine. And they have a new CEO who is another crazy Jesse Itzler type. He runs, bikes, and swims every morning before work at 4 a.m. And so I called him and was like, I'm going to do this. Do you want to be my teammate? And do you like, let's do this documentary. And I said, let's do this. And he said, I'm not only let's do this as a documentary.
Oh, wow.
And
great.
Yes.
Yay. I'm so excited.
So we've been virtually training. So that's why we've been hashtagging, because 24 Hour is sort of putting the campaign together. But whether he's in, Dallas, or he's right now traveling the country to every single location.
Great.
So we're doing that.
Great. So we've got to take another break, but I'm so excited because not only going to be doing a collaboration influencer event, but I want to watch every single thing. I think people should really watch you to see how people network, how they influence, how they come together with brands, how that works. And so you're so much more than a fitness expert. You're like this all-encompassing thing of this amazing, incredible dynamic woman. I really feel that. I really do. I think you have the ability to
coming from one herself.
Yeah. So when we come back, I want to ask you a few things. I want to get a little deep. I want to talk about eating disorders, because I think being fit in fitness, how do we deal with that? How do we become influencers that are positive, that are not promoting, a negative aspect of fitness? And I also want to get into the details of what you eat and how you work out every day, because I think people probably really want to know that. Okay, so stay tuned, you guys. We'll be right back.
Lights, camera, action!
We're back with Amanda Russell. I'm so excited for your documentary coming out, but I want to get to the juicy stuff. I want to know the details that people probably are watching saying, I want to know what does she eat and how much does she work out? I want to know the details about that first, and then I want to get into kind of a deeper conversation.
So I get that question a lot, and that's the beauty actually of the internet, is that the audience will tell you in real time what they want, and you can respond. So you build the audience first, and then you can then exactly know what it is that they want and listen to them. So those were two of the biggest questions. So I used YouTube to then build a website that has everything that. It has my entire workout program. It has short ones, long ones, nutrition plans, depending on what your goals are. I think it's very subjective. I don't think it's a one size fits all. Yeah. You have to find out what works for you. And that's part of the program. The subscription model that we walk them into depends on which phase you're in. And we will, after you fill out a health history questionnaire, you then are put into the correct phase, and based on your goals and your lifestyle. But then, while you might come into it as, okay, I need to lose 15 pounds, or I need to, tone up, what you end up realizing is you're getting an education on your body. And that is what athletes know. They know their body like a science, right? And so my goal is putting people through this, that by the time they get to phase 3, they're so self-sufficient that they know what works for them. So what works for me is not going to work for you, but the first phase is, okay, this is what I do. Now let's see where we start making the changes. I am not I'm not into juicing. I don't know if you've seen, I just recorded a video recently. I don't juice, I don't like kale. I sometimes I like birthday cake, I like to drink wine, and I think that's and that's not for everybody, but that's part of life. To me, that's my balance. And I think there is a misconception about balance being rigidity.
Okay, great. So that's where I want to go. And at the end, don't worry, I'll make sure you get all the places to go to check out what she eats on a daily basis. But so speaking of that, cake and having some wine
Yeah.
and whatever it is, right? So we have, according to, let's see, I think it's NADA, is that correct? I want to make sure, sorry, ANAD, I want to get that correct. There's 50 million people in America that have eating disorders. And so being a, celebrity fitness expert, how do you, as an influencer, because some people would look at you and they'd say, oh, she looks like she has an eating disorder. She's pretty thin, right? So how do you deal with that? From a spiritual space saying, I don't want to influence somebody negatively. How do you take responsibility to make sure that you're coming from a mindful space, whatever?
You touched a chord. That's a really great question. I got into running as a little girl because I was always very, very tiny, almost like to the point where my mom, as a little girl, brought me to the doctor and was like, why won't this kid grow? But that ended up becoming my tool. I became a distance runner because of my body type. When I started doing YouTube videos, which is very different than running as a competitive athlete, I started getting, as fast as the channel was growing and the people the audience, maybe it was a car crash, but it grew so fast, so quickly, and they became so loyal and engaged the audience. But alongside that were all the hate comments.
Yeah.
And I got diagnosed from people from all over the world anonymously. Anorexia, bulimia, this girl should not be talking about health and fitness. She's clearly anorexic, she has a disease. And it was, I remember almost shutting down over it. And then I decided, I was like, I don't even want to be, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want this kind of feedback. And I stopped. I stopped for a little while, which was probably the worst thing I could have done, because it allows them to win. And so then I decided, why would I do that? I need to own this. And so I actually did a video called Why Are You So Skinny? And that's how I came back. And the point, though, is not whether or not. So for me, that was my tool, was that I was small. But even if somebody does have a problem, everybody has their thing, right? And there's no hierarchy of struggle. So you never know what's going on with somebody. So to accuse them in these hate comments and to judge people based on what they look like. There are fitness people out there that get accused of, why are you talking about fitness? You're clearly too soft. We don't want to look like you're too big for that. Your fitness program is not working. So I think there needs to be, it comes from the head and the mind, not the aesthetic.
For me, I struggled with bulimia from the time I was 17 to 20, and it was a living hell.
It is.
And I never dealt with anorexia, so I never was one of those people that worked out fanatically or anything like that. So for me, actually working out helps me. It is like a daily spiritual practice, in that it regulates a lot of the hormones and energy, and so then I can eat a little bit more without, freaking out or whatever it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But there's a fine line. It's interesting you say that, because there's a fine line, because exercise becomes a form of bulimia for a lot of anorexics. And I think the at the root of it, it's a head thing. So we need to project that while we might come to fitness or come to nutrition for an aesthetic reason, if you are, and this is what we try to do, is teaching people that this is about so much more than exercise. This is about so much more than what you look like or those skinny jeans you fit into. This is about how you feel. And that
I couldn't agree more.
Right, this positive rippling effect on every aspect of your life.
Completely. And, a lot of spiritual people, they don't focus on some physical, and I believe it needs to be all three. And I love, yoga's been a great spiritual practice, because I believe the body has to hold the energy. It has to, if you're doing a lot of spiritual work, you've got to be able to, maintain a lot of energy flowing through your body. And if you don't deal with the body, it doesn't end well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So on that note, I want to, because we only have like a couple more minutes, and I want to just, first of all, just acknowledge that you're having an influence in many ways, and especially the influencing way, because I believe that is really the future. And I believe that spiritually, we're all supposed to collaborate. And so thank goodness for social media, for having it demand us to come together, right?
It does.
Yeah.
And I think that what you said about social media is an important point, because it gets a lot of flack for being negative body image, negative self-image. It's not the technology. that's negative. We are humans. We're the ones in charge of it. We need to narrate that conversation. We need to be in front of it. And I think there needs to be a shift. And I think people like you that have these shows that are out in the media, we have the power to change that and to steer that. And we can make that a movement.
Completely. I can completely agree. So how can they find you to watch the 24-hour fitness 29029? And then how do they find you online for your programs and for all that good stuff?
Great. So if you look at hashtag 29029, and you can on Instagram or Facebook, you'll find that. And then fitness plans is called the website is called fitstrongandsexy.com. My YouTube channel is just my name. If you want to learn about influence and the book that I'm writing, I'm actually co-writing it with another professor at USC. It's called theinfluencercode.com. And the curriculum is there. We're developing we're actually taking the curriculum from UCLA we developed and putting it as I should say, that's what I'm working on right now, is creating that as an online platform. Well, there won't just be influencer marketing, but there'll be other courses as well as we build it out.
Great. So looking forward to it. And just thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know that there's an influencer in you. I know that there's the perfect daily spiritual practice of fitness that fits your life to live your greatest life. So on that note, live your truth. Have a great day, you guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Erin, for having me.
Thank you.